Look, color film became widely available in the 1930s, and digital cameras are obviously color by default. So why are so many photographers still shooting black and white? What's so special about monochrome? More than that, why is it trendy and coming back? We've got movies and TV and all sorts of stuff coming out in the year 2024 in black and white. Well, it turns out it's not just the bit where there's no color. Look, I love color, and I think that shows in my work. Color film was what got me hooked on photography in the first place, but I wish that I had tried shooting black and white earlier. So a little while ago, I decided to do an experiment. What would happen to me and my photos if I only shot black and white? How would it change my photography? And more importantly, would it get likes on Instagram? As it turns out, the time that I spent shooting just black and white was, I think, the most important time for my growth as an artist ever. If you're from like a complete beginner all the way through to a seasoned pro, I think you should give black and white a crack. So what exactly happens when you take the color away? Okay, I'm not doing the whole video in black and white. So the first thing that happens when you go black and white is your focus changes. No, not on the lens. I mean like artistically, mainly in terms of composition. You can't just go out at golden hour and take a picture of just about anything, classic cars, whatever, and have it look great because the lighting is gorgeous. You have to put in a little bit more work to tell the story you want to tell. You have to look at light and shadow and texture differently. I found that when I shot like this, it really helped me hone in on composition and framing more creatively and layering, and it stopped me from just blasting away as much. Plus, as a bonus, black and white film is super easy to develop at home. It's cheaper than color, and it's also just as easy to push, which means that if you're a film-only kind of guy, you're not screwed the minute the sun goes down. I used to just buy HP5 in bulk, and I would shoot it anywhere from box speed 400 ISO all the way up to 6400 ISO. So I think it's great and all to change our approach with photography with black and white and change the way we're seeing things, but I think it's just as important to consider how it affects the viewer of the photography. After all, is it art without an audience? And one thing that black and white can definitely do really well is remove distractions. There's no red cars in the background or blue skies, and so it can encourage the viewer to look a little bit harder for the story. Sometimes I feel like when I show my non-photo friends or like my mum or something, a photo that I've taken in color, it can get the very surface level, oh, that's a pretty picture response, because it is eye candy on the surface level, and sometimes they can skim over a much more compelling or interesting story within the photo. Whereas with black and white, I feel like maybe there's a viewer expectation that there's something more. And while removing distractions is cool, it doesn't mean that your photos have to be minimalist. Ellen Schaller does amazing minimalist black and white photography, and I like it, but I tend to pull inspiration more from photographers like Daido Moriyama or Trent Park. A big part of who I am as a person, not just an artist, is chaos, and so I really like to show that side of myself in the way I compose. Another way black and white has influenced my work is this. Yeah, I have merch now, ego stroking, whatever. I'm treating it less like merch and more like another creative outlet, a way to play around with designing stuff that's 3D instead of flat photos or videos. It's a really fun new medium to be creative with. If you're into it, I've got a couple of pieces out now, including this embroidered t-shirt. There are links below. So black and white changes our approach as photographers, and it changes the way that the viewer perceives the photo. But I also think that black and white photography changes the world. Hear me out. No, really, if you think about it, no one sees the world in black and white. Even people with limited color perception still don't just see grayscale. It's an entirely different experience, and it can lead to some creative breakthroughs. How? Well, sure, sometimes, you go out with black and white film and then the greatest sunset mankind has ever witnessed happens to just show up, and that's kind of annoying. But when you're shooting black and white, a lot of the time you can see frames and compositions that you might have otherwise missed if you weren't thinking in black and white. And even better than that, I love to shoot instinctively. I like to meter by eye. I like to guesstimate my distance for scale focusing, and I like to allow myself to press the shutter the second the viewfinder hits my eye. I feel like shooting in this way is super revealing. It shows me exactly what I saw. Because black and white is just inherently more flexible in terms of exposure, it allows me to shoot like that more often, which in turn results in photos like this. If I had spent more than half a second taking this photo, I would immediately have noticed the meter pegged at the bottom because it was super underexposed. But if I had done that and correctly exposed, I don't think I would like this photo as much as I do. The way that it is, I love it. I like that there's mystery and texture and shape and shadow. I really love the way it makes me feel. My mum hates it though, so ultimately, if there's a way to shake up the way that you're making art, why not give it a crack? Seriously, set your camera to black and white right now. Don't worry. You've got the raws. You can chicken out if you want, if you don't like it. But I think just try it. Look at your photos in black and white first, and you might just be surprised. They definitely won't get as many likes as color on Instagram though. Stay hydrated and create art.